Hello, namaskar. It's 15th of June today, and it's around 1 p.m. and it's a Saturday. Monday it will be a Muslim holiday. I don't know which one the holiday. I think it's the Mubarak or the Fitr. So this June we've been blessed with one national holiday. So we have a long weekend until Tuesday we're going out back to work. Now, work is not just working all the time. In student companions, when we write in common entrance, they told us too much work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Too much play and no work makes Jack a dull boy. So it's converse is true, right? So many people can say that when you have an education, nobody takes it away. That it's yours forever, it's for your keeping. But they don't know the pros and cons of the human psychology, the human mind. Maybe many anatomists and physiologists knows about the human brain, but I don't know if they know the invisible component of the brain that uses the brain, that for which the brain serves as a medium. No? So what happened is that the mind uses the brain as a medium, and as a result of the mind, depending on its evolution, it affects the brain in a psychosomatic way and also in a socio-psycho-spiritual manner, where we have it has a bearing on our society. The state of our mind creates our social environment, our social reaction, our social becoming, our social existence, the reality of our life in the external world, our mind. So if the mind is high, you may have a very glorious, respectable, loving, happy, charming existence like in the East, Far East, Middle East, the Orient, and so on. People know about spirituality. Somebody said that Tagore Rabindranath is not a phenomenon from where he came. He's a product of his environment. So in those states, we have people are au fait, or they're in abundance with the highest states of mind. But when it comes to the scientific state of the mind, this corresponds to the intellect or the psychic panoramic field of the attention span. And the psychic phenomenon can pertain to mentation, the intellect, the will, the emotion to an extent, the perceptive faculty, and the rationalizations of the mind, and so on. So we do know that the intellect has been pursued a great deal in the modern era for the purpose of harnessing the world and the forces that govern the world, in cognizing the forces that govern the world, and fine-tuning the mind into the workings of the natural laws and so on, the laws of the cosmic, astrology, astronomy, celestial bodies, and so on, the ley lines. All of these humans are now familiar with. So these are all due to the intellectual faculties. Now, Swami Sivananda, the great Swami Sivananda, said through the intellect, the great philosophers of the West have been born. They're so great and magnificent in the comprehension, their oratory, their practicality, that they've even challenged the great mystics of the East, the godlike mystics, the great God and the Bhagavans, the avatars. And we can see how this is true, because in the material world here, we see some of the things that the West have produced through the use of the mind has even rivaled the God-given culture and philosophy of some of the natural-born nations, as we can say. People who've been endowed and blessed by nature and creation. So while through effort and through practicality and endeavor and evolution, mankind has created some baffling facilities and utensils to make his life softer, mellower, and more sustaining. Some of these are like, we can see now, the enjoyment to travel, to space, to travel on the water, the ski sports, the upon the surface, water sports. We know of the books. Many people enjoy comics, the books, the movies, computers. We have the architecture, cuisine. So many things are coming out in the physical life, in the workplace. Also, we can see the architectural dimension of things that people are now saying that America is using alien technology to foster in the celestial civilization, the terrestrial plane, to foster civilization on the terrestrial plane. We don't know how this is true, how the aliens are helping us or not. But some of the materials and some of the stuff that we're handling and passing through our hands do seem out of the world at times, you know. But albeit having all of these psychic panorama, we know physical, people can be enchanted by the physical too. Every day is a marvel. The old people used to say, the more you live, the more you learn. The more you know, the more you are amazed, the more you become overawed, and awesomeness is there, you know. So the physical can also astound you with its remarkable contours and endurance and flexibility and colors and dimensions and so on. People have written poems, sing songs about the natural, but the physical universe now. So albeit we have so much in the physical and the psychic realms, and we know that they are very wide fields, you know. The fields of the mind and the body, the physical and the mind is so diverse and wide that we are constantly confounded. We constantly amazed and stupefied. So we can't help but eulogizing prayers and salutations and praises upon the architects of modern civilization and creation and so on. Now, albeit the physical and mental, many people, for example, Sivananda, he met the alchemy, he met the fulfillment, the climax of his intellectual achievement as a doctor. If you read his autobiography of Sivananda, he will tell you the laurels he achieved in his medical professions, his successes, his love with his colleagues, fellow workers and professors, and so on. But then he said he felt a void. And this void was one day chanced upon by a visiting mendicant who happened to be a saint, a yogi saint. And right away he felt a communication or a communion with the void and the saint. And he started to practice yoga, and this led the medical doctor being metamorphosed into a great saint himself, Swami Sivananda. And the contribution he's left for mankind seems to be eternal and seems to be unrepayable, you know. It's invaluable, we can say, priceless. So some people are like that, you know. One man can leave a mark on the universe. One people, one nation can have one destiny, either in the physical, in this intellectual, can either be a scientific nation. Cuba is famous for producing many medical doctors. Russian too. The Russians, they have produced so many intellectuals in the field of intellectualism and experiments and explorations and pioneerings and so on. So we have that the fields of the physical and the mental arenas, they are there to achieve and explore, but they are limited. The spiritual achievement and the spiritual mastery, they say, leaves an eternal etch or mark on society. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that though you may have a physical and a mental dimension, and it is being given so much attention in this hemisphere of the globe, we should not neglect the spiritual, because what happens is that in neglecting the spiritual, you neglect your completeness, your fullness, and you will always feel emptiness, a sorrow, a listlessness, and unfulfillment. You may feel a dryness, and kind of imbalance in the humors of your being, you know. And until you are familiar with the spiritual principles of life and start to practice them, or somehow inducted into that path, you know, into that kind of lifestyle, you will not feel fulfillment, you know. In India and some of the spiritual nations in Europe also, these kind of things come naturally. You meet a friend and they teach you spiritual principles and you learn them. But here, like for example, the Caribbean, I don't know how many people can peer pressure you into such wholesome activities and tendencies and habits, you know. It has to come by some visitor coming from abroad or something like that. So here we are being neglected in this arena, this zone, that is spirituality is not sufficient unto itself. We spiritually starve, I would say, more to say. People in the Caribbean are suffer from spiritual starvation. They have no outlet for the frustration, for their problem, their insolvencies, their poverty of spirit, and their miserable state of affairs in the physical, psychic, and spiritual arena. And until these three are resolved and brought into harmony and balance, equilibrium, the yin and the yang, we cannot have a glorious physical, mental, or spiritual apparatus in a mode of function or operation. So all for this, I would like to say that one needs to fulfill all three dimensions, the physical, the mental, and spiritual. I mean, the common thing like going to church once a week is not enough. Most spiritual masters say you have to do spiritual practice twice daily, and seek out the opportunities which will give you the opportunity to practice good conduct and good behavior, and give you challenges at reformations through behavioral practices and inculcation, you know. So when the tests come and the difficulties come for you to express spiritual tendencies, you need to exercise and use the opportunity, you know. This will make you a better person, a better spiritual person, and a better adventurer of living, you know, better adventure of life. You know, that life is an adventure if you can reach to that point of comprehension and experience. But until you cannot experience life as an adventure, it becomes a drag. It becomes boredom, it becomes slow, it becomes kind of down speed or decelerated, you know. You have to see the liveliness, the colors and contours, and for this, the sharpness of the mind, the acuity of the spirit, the awakening of the tempest. Your soul nature has to be initiated by inspiration, by zeal, by thirst, by belief and faith, and all these things are what makes life valuable and worth living, you know. So what I would like to say is that I once remember in the early 90s when Tuananda monks were in Guyana working. They were saying that communism will fall. I was laughing. I said, you can't stop that from falling. Communism is ruling the world. You know, even America, before capitalism, they were studying aspects of communism, some of the principles and practices, how communism can fall. So they said that the teacher went to Berlin and he tapped the wall. He said, this wall that divides humanity will fall and people will be more free and happy. He said when he commented on communism, he said, communism will die a premature death. Capitalism will die a natural death. And there will be a vacuum. And it's only the political philosophy he left called Prout will fill that vacuum. So I don't know how true is this, you know, that communism will die a premature death. And I didn't believe that. I was chuckling in my mind. So it's just one of those predictions, those doomsday prophecy, you know. And in fact, some of our members, senior leaders, they used to speak a lot about doomsday, as if they believe that Ananda Marga's doomsday philosophy. And in fact, 2 or 3 years they pulled down Karl Marx statue. Communism just fell. Nobody liked it anymore. Everybody fight communism. Nobody wanted Jyoti Basu. All these men now become nightmares in the social revolutionary chapters of social revolution. They become horrors and people who left a negative impact and impression on society. People like Pol Pot. These guys left a bad mark on society. Pol Pot was the Buddhist monk from Cambodia who changed the communism, and he created such state of suffering. Had people work saying he would return the whole state of blessedness to Cambodia and work the people out. When they get old, he dug one long grave and shot them behind the head. They fell in the grave and he covered it up back. So that was Pol Pot, from a Buddhist monk to a political leader. So I remember when communism did fall, the news came that Russians were taking so quickly to spirituality. There's a dryness in them. Many of the emotions were not getting to be expressed in colorful way. They were often dry people, intellectual machines, machinated society, and suddenly with this fall of communism, people start to run to the Hare Krishna, Ananda Marg, to ways to let out that creativity, that intuitive outbursts when the intellect has reached its climax, the movement into the intuition that needs to be taught, that needs to be guided and tutored. Step-by-step tutorials is now available, and everybody just took the opportunity, and now you can see on the net there are so many Hare Krishna people in Ukraine and Russia and these places, Czechoslovakia. So that's the best they could have got so far,